Speaking of things falling apart, you guys went to California. I have this story here from USA Today. They say, California is a failed state. How do we know? They're moving to Arizona in droves. This story is from August 31st, but they say a few things I want to highlight before we talk about what you guys did, because you guys went and actually talked to business owners and people have been impacted by the failed policies of California. They say California's energy policies have failed. They say, so have those policies to stop homelessness. Harsh pandemic response didn't help. Move here, leave those policies at home. What they're talking about now is as people in California leave, they're bringing the politics with them that destroyed the state. So this is a story I covered quite a bit ago. There was, the failed state of California. There was also the return of bubonic plague, typhoid outbreaks, disease, homelessness. So you guys put together, you did a documentary. Is that what you did?
Yeah. So what happened, Tim, is we actually kind of stumbled on this project on accident. So I went back home to California. That's my hometown in Palmdale. So I went back around Thanksgiving, and being here and covering politics in DC, you do, even though I always hated myself for it, is like you do get stuck in kind of like a DC bubble. You forget how bad the pandemic is for the rest of Americans. So as soon as I landed back home in California for Thanksgiving break, I visited my hometown, and it's decimated. It's just, unemployment is high. Most of my friends, their parents own these restaurants. Now they're going out of business. It's just horrible. So right there was like,
do you know the unemployment rate right now in California?
I don't know the unemployment rate, but as of right now, we do have 17% of restaurants across the U.S. So about 110 establishments are closed permanently.
110,000?
And in November, the restaurant industry lost over 2 million jobs.
Wow.
So being in California, I started talking to the restaurant owners about the outdoor dining ban, just how they're doing. So as soon as I started interviewing these restaurant owners, it was powerful stuff. Like they would be crying in my face saying, hey, Jorge, on Thanksgiving week, we get the news of the outdoor dining ban. We have to now lay off the majority of our staff. And it's like, and what they made me realize too is like, we're not just laying off workers. These are families that, these people have to put food on the table. And then also kind of being in this project, I got to learn that a lot of these couples, both of the couples would be in the restaurant industry. So now you have 2 servers now let go, no help from the government. And then at the same time, since they're in the working class, their kids are at home all day on Zoom. Their kids' depression is up. So it's just this horrible thing. And so Sagnik came down and we were able to really focus in on these American stories, because like a lot of these restaurant owners feel like they've been left behind. Not only that, another aspect is they spend thousands of dollars on outdoor dining and just accommodating to California's crazy rules. I mean, LA County was the only county to do an outdoor dining ban. So just in LA County, that's affecting 30,000 restaurants.
Hold on. These people were told we're shutting down indoor dining. So they spend tons of money to set up outdoor dining.
Exactly.
And then as soon as they do, they go, that's banned too.
And not only that, Tim, the crazy thing is
that's evil.
The breweries in LA County were already they couldn't serve outdoors unless they had a kitchen. So I was able to interview one brewery owner who spent $100,000 on a kitchen just to serve outdoors. Only for 2 weeks later, the county said, nope, done, shut it down. So you have this massive brewery stuck on takeout beers. It's impossible, and it's just heartbreaking to hear the owner say, we love this business and we don't want to let people go, but at this point, what can we do? We're put in this tough corner. So the beautiful thing is that me and Sagnik really got to document these stories, tell these people stories, and when we put a documentary together, we released it actually today, so it's on Daily Caller. Check it out. We worked really hard on it, and it really meant a lot to the restaurant industry, because for them, they feel like they don't have a voice.
But this is the kind of thing you got to send to your friends who don't believe you. The people who think everything's fine, or that we're not facing serious trouble. Let them hear in the words of the people who actually had their lives destroyed.
So I know you got to work on me.
When you talk to these people, one thing you realize, like the people in DC or like people in New York or people who run media, they have given people this easily digestible pill, which is like a single variable way of thinking. Like during this pandemic, the only thing we have to consider is lives saved versus lives not saved. Like the only thing you need to worry about saving lives. They don't consider the fact that these people who run these bars, who run these restaurants, they have lives too. Like if you like close them and then you say like, oh, we are saving lives, like that's not a solution. That's just a lazy way of thinking. Like there are other variables to consider here. Like the waiter, he has a job, he probably has a family, he has a child. Like what about him? That's one factor about it. And the second factor is like the hypocrisy. Like if you like drive like 10 minutes away from these restaurants, you walk into Target where people are crowded in like gajillion numbers, especially during like holiday seasons. And that's like literally in front of these people. Like you can like look out of the restaurants which are closed and you see these like Target packed, and they realize that these like lockdown measures do not make any sense whatsoever. And the fact that it's so blatant is like insulting to them.
You know, I think it might be a red pill for a lot of these small businesses.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think most people are just going to keep voting D. They're going to walk in and go, Democrat. And they're going to walk out and walk away. And it's going to keep happening. It's not going to stop.
Look, we don't know what's going to happen.
Either that or like people who have the resources to leave will leave. Like, but unfortunately, these people do not have the resources to leave. They have poured their life's savings into, you know, creating something out of nothing and hiring people. And like once you have that mentality, which is like, okay, my job is to be responsible to like put food on other people's table, like my waiters, my chefs. You're living like a different life. You're not living a life of like a staff writer in New York Times who lives in a pod and whose only job is to write. Like you're responsible for other people. You're an entrepreneur, and like people do not empathize with these people easily. And the media has done like a horrible job of translating that.
Well, they don't, because they live in the journalists are like that Randall character. They're snitches.
Yeah,
they're not going to come out and be like, oh, you poor restaurant owner. No, we already saw one story where there was a business, they had a walkway and they put a tent over it and put tables there so that people could use their public walkway as an outdoor dining. And the journalist snitched on them and said, we need to inform New York they're doing this.
Yeah, and then the interesting thing too, Tim, is in California, you know, I've grown up there my whole life, but when I was growing up in the early 90s, you know, California was a state where everyone around the country was moving to the Golden State. You know, you wanted to be in California. I remember when I was growing up, you know, my dad is an immigrant from El Salvador. He just has a 6th grade education. My dad was able to have the family of 5 on one income. He was a trucker, and, you know, we would go on vacation. We owned our cars. That life is gone in California. It's becoming almost like a Latin America economy where the lowest class doesn't pay for anything because everything's subsidized. The middle and the working class pay for absolutely everything, and they're living on scrums. They're the ones who have to get by. And the rich, it's all good for the actors and everyone else. So I in the documentary too, I say, you know, this is the Golden State. It's now only golden for the elites, and everyone else is left behind. One of the more powerful interviews that I got, Tim, is I interviewed a owner of a pizza restaurant. And when we spoke about the Gavin Newsom situation, she was just crying in my face saying it's an absolutely slap in the face for him to be able to eat in the French Laundry indoors while I have to lay off my employees who are literally making like $13 an hour. You know, some of these folks are surviving on like $120 a week, Tim, having kids. I mean, depression is going up. It's honestly some of the saddest things that we're seeing. And we're just trying to focus on these stories because it just feels like the average American story is not getting told. And, you know, I think it was a blessing for me to get out of that DC bubble and to see it and say, you know what, this is what I need to really be focused on, is telling these stories. And the next project we'll be working on, and we don't want to get too much into it, but we're going to be interviewing parents, and they're going to be talking to me about, you know, their kids going through this depression indoors.
A lot of suicides.
I put out a tweet saying, hey, parents, reach out to me. And Tim, I got over 100 messages, and this is kind of the sentiment of these messages saying, hey, I had an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, 12-year-old. They were all A's, athletic. Now into the pandemic, all F's, social anxiety, doesn't want to talk to me. I'm speaking to a dad right now where his son grabbed his gun because he fell into depression during this COVID lockdown, 12 years old, shot himself in the mouth trying to kill himself. Whoa. But the way he shot it, thank God, he's in stable condition. We're going to be interviewing him to tell this story. But this stuff is just not getting told in the news. And not only that, and when I was speaking to his parents, now that it made me realize, they were telling me like, hey, Jorge, I'm making less money because of the pandemic. My kids are stuck at home. Depression's up. I'm also spending more on groceries, double, because since the kids are home, they're eating more. So it's just all these little things that we would never consider. Dude. And sometimes, you know, look, I know what happened in the Capitol. Obviously, that's big news, and we need to talk about it. But at the end of the day, let's not forget that, you know, average Americans can't put food on the table. And it's not only California, it's across the state. Right, we can only focus there. But let's not forget about the average Americans. They're getting left behind during this pandemic.
I was reading, there's something, a doctor gave an interview or something where he talked about he's never seen such a deterioration. Yeah. Not just from older folks, but from even kids. Kids becoming out of shape, overweight, their blood pressure's bad. They're like just obese, diabetic, because they're not exercising. They're sitting in all day. They're not getting vitamin D. And they're getting depressed.
Social anxiety for these kids.
Yeah, too, they're becoming like, you know, just a homebody lying around with bed sores, crumbs on their chest. And then they're supposed to interact through, you know, computers. Man, get out of these cities. The best thing you can do, I guess. But some people can't do it. You're trapped.
Yeah. Exactly. like a lot of people like oh, leave California, just move to Texas, like move to Nashville. It's like a lot of people do not have like the means to do that. And California, let's not forget, it's like a beautiful state. It's like a huge beautiful state where like a lot of people live, and a huge swath of population like feel like they're left behind just because of the governor, just because of the mayor. And it's just like a harrowing thing to see. And like when you meet these people, the thing you realize is that like they are so like the fact that like Tucker talks about it a lot, like the fact that class divide, like it is so obvious to them that when people think about California, they think about, oh, the place where actors live, oh, where like celebrities live, right? But the fact that they're like actual waiters or actual restaurant owners who do not have jobs, like that is class divide.
I was thinking something. I was like, when I saw Gavin Newsom doing that fancy dinner,
French Laundry, yeah.
What was it called?
French Laundry.
French Laundry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the name of the restaurant. It's one of the
yeah.
most fanciest restaurants in the world. I mean, the bill was
$400,000 ish.
$400,000.
Wait, the bill? How much was the bill for
that's what the pizza owner told me. Like the bill should be like closer to $400,000. Like 12
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
12 people ate there.
Yeah.
In Vegas, I remember Shane Smith from Vice spent $300,000, I think, on dinner.
My!
But yeah. So when I saw that, I have never been closer to raising my fist and yelling, "Workers of the world, unite!"
Seriously.
Jeez, yeah,
But
that's like socialism telling you.
But here's what I'm thinking: like, is there a thing where we can like unite the workers, but not as communists, and just be like, "Yo, these politicians."
That's
need
the
to
new
be
right, dude.
removed.
That's the new right. That's the populist new right. Where like people realize that us being workers have been left behind by the government, and the only like the way to unite is like not exactly like following Bernie's rule, but like what Tucker says. It's like you as a worker have a right. Like the fact that the whole concept of like someone having a job, like the same job at retiring at 60 years old with his Rolex, is like outdated, should be worrisome.
So,
like,
yeah. Let me say probably one of the most bannable things. So let's recognize people on the right should not be voting for Republicans. Let's see. We see what they do.
no, they hate their own voters.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but let's also recognize the left should not be voting for Democrats.
Yep.
So everybody made a mistake here. How about we all agree the workers should unite, but not to change not to make socialism, just to get rid of corrupt, crooked politicians. And I mean this peacefully. I mean, we need to have people come together, a populist movement saying we might not agree on the economic policy, but we can all agree the elites don't have our back and are selling us out and stripping away our access and our rights and our liberties. And if the workers do unite, it doesn't have to be for communism. No. It can just be for the benefit of the
basic
people.
American rights and the right to make a living. Like if I'm being honest, I was like far from being like a populist guy. Like I was like I would say like I was close to being like a neoconservative like before this year began. But like when 2020,
You're a Paul
like,
Ryan conservative.
But when this year started rolling down, I realized that like holy shit, this class divide is like so obvious. And like these, like the Washington, like does not give a single crap about any of these people at all. Like if they're like the stimulus thing was like the perfect example for that. Like I talked to this waitress who was like 28 years old, single mother, has like a 4-year-old son. And she was like, the last stimulus I got was like when everyone else got their like $1,600, like back in like April, May, I don't remember. And like that was the last one. And like, and ever since that, I've been earning $200 a week. And like I have a son who was like 2 years old. Like, what about him?
You know, I think people need to start realizing you can't count on government. You can count on them to put the roadblocks up, but not to give you the food after they screw you over. And so I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, and it's maybe easier for me to say, but we're going back to, we're going back in time in terms of look, let me stop there. We were in a golden age for a long time. You go to the store, you get cheeseburgers, you get pizzas, boom, just like that for dirt. You go home, you put it in the freezer, you put it in the oven, you got food. That's easy living. People used to have to work from sun up to sundown just to have enough food to survive, and it was work nonstop. And we're heading back in that direction. For whatever reason you want to say, I think people need to become self-reliant, independent, start realizing the government's not going to get your back. And even if we do change these politicians, it's not going to change anything.
No.
Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power tends to corrupt absolute.
I mean, wages have been going down in this country for the past 30 years, and they keep going down. Life expectancy in America is, I think it's like where like it's just dropping because now Americans have to work more jobs. We also have the opioid crisis. It's I mean, and then the pandemic obviously doesn't help.
Collapsing economy.
Yep.
Like back to your point, like the thing is like, yes, like meritocracy is like still a thing, and like people should like believe in it, but at the same time people should always question like these congregation of powers, and anytime there's like this like unwarranted like mammoth of power to any corporation, to any government, people should like question that, or at least like, is this right that this one company has like access to everything that we do, like websites, groceries, like flight tickets, like everything. Like if you fall out of line and this company doesn't like it, like that's it. That's it for you. You're banished from like normal society.
That's why I think we might be heading towards peaceful divorce, as many people have called it. Because like I said, people who can't get jobs anymore because, blue states won't hire them, they can get jobs in West Virginia and Wyoming and Nebraska or whatever. But I guess we'll see how it plays out. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. And we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.